afternoon, everybody. My name is Sandra Wiebelhaus. I'm the director of the project management team here in Arizona. Welcome to the Contexture Lunch and Learn HCI Workbook overview. Our goal today is to be able to go over the workbook with you and help facilitate any kind of questions or concerns that you might have about the workbook. I'll get started by sharing my screen. Give me one moment and I'll go ahead and start sharing. All right, Alexa, I'll rely on you to make sure that we have everything we need to get through. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to go over the participant workbook for those who have just joined. We are going to keep you on mute just to make sure that we can get through the workbook. And at the very end of the session, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. So just give us a moment as we get through it. If you have anything that you want me to come back to, I'm happy to do that. All right, let's get started. All right, the overview that's going to happen today is the introduction to the integration project. You know, what does it look like? What does it mean for us? The workbook details and the OIDs. We're going to talk about next steps, and we'll go ahead and go through questions at the very end. Alexa, just make sure you can see my screen fine. Is that correct?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. All right. Introduction to the integration project. As you know, Contexture has recently announced that we will be going to a unified platform, which means we're going to be serving participants across Arizona and Colorado beginning in 2025. The integration will offer participants improved HIE system performance, functionality, interoperability, identity management, reporting, analytics, and security. Our new vendor, known as Health Catalyst KPI Ninja, will be distributing the integration workbooks, as you've probably more than likely already received one. KPI Ninja needs the details of your current connection so that we can pass that on to them and they can start looking at getting you implemented into the new environment. Just to note, if you have an inbound connection that is either LabCore, that is a LabCore data feed only, but you're not sending data to us other than the LabCore, you do not have to fill out the workbook. This is not applicable to you. If you only have portal access, then again, and you're not sending your data, this is not applicable to you. The planned go live for the integration is April 2025. However, the initiation of vendors and participant technical calls will have to happen soon, November 2023, all the way into 2024. And as you know, many of us have to work with vendors, which can take time, and you also have to work with resources internally. So we want to make sure to give you plenty of time to get working on that. All right, let's get ready to start going through the info tabs. The workbook that you received had several tabs. We had informed folks that they needed to fill out the purple highlighted sections, but we've actually updated a couple of the segments here, and we'll go through that during the call today. What we need from you are your contacts, HAI participant contacts, your vendor contacts. For example, if you have people internally, IT folks, project managers, please make sure to put that information in rows 21 through 24. As well as, your vendor. If you have your vendor contacts, you can add that information in there as well. If the role does not fit who that person is, you can always change the role to whatever that person's title is. That's not a problem. Or if you need to add more lines, feel free to go ahead and insert more lines to add all the resources that we need in order to initiate the project. This is really important because when we start getting ready to do the outreach, these are the folks that we're going to be reaching out to so that we can start working with you to get the technical calls scheduled. Or if we're missing information on your worksheet, this is helpful for us so that we can do outreach to you and get that information to make sure that we don't have any blockers. The other items you need to fill out are down here. Some of them will be either yourself and or your vendor. For example, is there any kind of drivers that would stop the project from being done within a certain timeline? Are there any future upgrades, migrations, planned downtimes, anything like that? If so, please put the dates in here so that we're aware that we may want to hold off working on your project later or sooner. Have there been any HL7 version updates, changes to the feeds over the last 4 years? Please make sure you indicate that on this item. And then also for your vendor or yourself, can you provide a separate test feed so that when we get ready to stage you into test, we need to be able to have a test feed. If you cannot, please let us know what your alternate method of testing will be, if you can add that information right in there. All right, let's go to the next one. This is kind of where we get a lot of people asking questions, specifically about OIDs, right? An OID is a number that's assigned to an entity or a facility that identifies you as the sole sender of that data. You are the owner of that data. So this is the information that we want in here. Many of you probably already have OIDs, and if you don't, you've probably already received an email asking you to acquire an OID. And so in this information, we're going to want you to enter your parent organization name, the facility full name, which is displayed in the portal. So for example, if you do have a parent name, but you have several locations, and we want you to put all those names in here. We want to know what your parent organization OID is and your facility OID. If you do not have MRN or facility OIDs and you do not have what's called a branching strategy, we can do that for you. You would just let us know. If you do not know that, you can work with your vendor to see if they know if you have a branching strategy or not. Many of you might not have a branching strategy, and if that is the case, you would just need to let us know. You can put that in the notes, and we can go ahead and branch that for you. We also need to know if you have a sending NPI as a provider code. It's a yes or no question. Again, if you're not sure how to fill out some of these sections, we're happy to work with you and your vendor. We can also schedule calls with them so we can help them understand what exactly we're looking for. As far as the hub is only applicable for those who have hub connections like Athena or ECW. If you have those types of connections, and we do have a couple of others, then we would want you to put yes or no. If you do not know, you can just put unknown, and we can help you try to get some of that information. We're going to go over this a little bit more in the next slide. So let me go right over that slide, and we'll talk a little bit more about the OIDs. All right. This is a quick overview about OIDs. As a data contributor to the Contexture Health Information Exchange, an HL7 registered OID is required for your organization. Your organization can currently utilize a branch of your EHR vendor's OID for other operations. However, what we do not support is any EHR vendor branched OIDs. And the reason for this is because, for example, if you do have a vendor branched OID and you are no longer with that vendor, let's just say you're with Allscripts and you no longer have Allscripts and they supply that OID for you, you cannot take it with you. It belongs to the vendor. And we do not have a way to identify you as that sender of that data, and you do not own that data, right? So this is the reason why we want you to apply for your own HL7 OID in our registry, That is one of the reasons. However, if for some reason your vendor is sending HIE to Contexture today and they are assigning the OID, we won't need to worry about getting that OID in the data feed. We're going to go ahead and just map the OID that you registered with in the data feed, and then we can branch it for you if needed. If you're unsure whether your organization has a participant root OID, you can search on the HL7 OID registry. If you have an OID and maybe the person that applied for the OID is no longer there and you need to manage the OID, there's also a section in the actual HL7 OID registry where you can change and edit an existing owner for that OID that got registered. All right, now we're going to go to the connectivity info tab. If you're actually sending data to us and you're sending it via a VPN or an SFTP, this is the section that we're going to want you to fill out. So anything that's highlighted yellow is where you need to fill out, you or your vendor. This first one here is typically how many people are sending data to us. It's a VPN, or it could be an SFTP. And what we're going to need you to do is indicate which one of these it is. And we're also going to want the information highlighted here in yellow. We're going to need to know your peer IP, the make, model, and version, the IKE phase 1, the versions encryption, and then also your IPs. All this information is information that needs to be filled out and returned to us. And again, you can work with your vendor to get a lot of that information. On rows C31 through C44, it's going to ask you to list the IP addresses. So this is going to be, for example, if you have a test IP, if you could add that information. If you have an ADT, it will want you to enter that information, yes or no, and then we'll want you to put the IP address there. Same thing for production. If you have those IP addresses, please enter that information there, and that will make it easier for our vendor once we get ready to have those technical discussions with you. Additionally, at the very bottom of the page, we're going to want you to enter the details for your SFTP. So if you are sending data through us via an SFTP, this is where we're going to want you to fill out the information. And if it's not by SFTP and it's by VPN, this is where we're going to want you to put a VPN technical contact. The reason we need the technical contact is because once we stand up the VPN with our new vendor, we will want to send a pre-shared key to whoever the person that's going to work on the VPN on the side of the participant. Additionally, we prefer not to take any kind of group emails. If you could please put a contact in the event that we have to reach out to someone, that really helps us out. If you need to put more than one contact, feel free to do that. That's not a problem. Also, I want to make a note that if you do have a VPN with us today, that will not be the same VPN you're going to be using in the future. We're going to be standing up a whole new VPN because the VPNs now are related to the vendor that we currently have. And with HCI KPI Ninja, we're going to be utilizing their VPNs. So I just want to make sure to note that. I know many have asked about that. All right. In the workbook details IHE info tab, if you use web services to send CCDs to us, this section will have to be completed by you or your vendor. If you are not sending us a CCD and you're only sending us an ADT inbound, then you won't need to worry about it. Not everything in all the sections has to be completed by you. It really depends on the type of connection that you have. In here, what we're going to want is the inbound IP address. That's if you're sending inbound data to us. And if we're sending outbound data, like if you're querying the HIE and you're pulling back a CCD from us, that's the outbound we're going to want in this section here. If you only have inbound, that's all we need. If you have bidirectional functionality, then we're going to need both IP addresses. As far as the public cert, don't worry about sending that to us now. That'll be something we'll work with you when we get ready to kick off your project. All right, this is the V2 inbound tab. I talked a little bit about the ADT just a minute ago. This is the information that we're going to want. We're going to want to know the version that you're using. We're going to want to know the ADT, if you're sending an ADT, if you're sending us labs, RADs, trans, pathology, med, pharmacy, immunizations, if you're doing electronic lab reporting or syndromic surveillance or other. We're also going to want to know the volumes, the expected volumes on a daily basis for all these data types. So please make sure to put the volumes in there for us. That helps us determine the type of testing that we'll have to work with you on. HCI KPI Ninja is also asking for a minimum of 100 test messages or a week's worth of data so that we can start working on your testing. So the question here is, can you do either 1 week's worth of data or 100 test messages? Most vendors say yes to this, and most can. And if there's going to be any attachments included, and if so, what type of attachments would we be getting in your feed? That's the information that we're going to need. And then additionally, I know that we had not required you to fill this out before, but we are asking you to fill it out now. We would need to know in MSH 3.1, which is the sending application, what EMR acronym you're going to be sending in this field. And if you can just fill that out. And then for PID 3.1, we want to know what your MRN structure is. And if you can just put an example in here, if it's an alphanumeric value, if you can just put an example in there, that would help our vendor. Other than that, all the rest, do not worry about. Only the highlighted sections. All right, and this is for a V3 inbound. If you are sending us a V3 inbound, we would like to know the connection types, whether it's a PIX V3, a PDQ, XDS.B, XCA, or an XCPD. The volume of transactions per day, if you're sending it in real time or batch, the message types, And then also we want to know what type of CCD you're sending, a C32, a CCDA, and in that document type, is it a CCD, consult notes, discharge, imaging, H&Ps, operative notes, progress or procedure notes. And then we'll want to know if you're going to be sending payloads with embedded documents in them as well. Again, I know this is lots of technical information, but many times your vendor can help support a lot of these questions. And one more tab that we are asking you to fill out if you are ready to connect with us. If you're ready to start working with us and you have your vendor engaged, we would like to know the data type, the source system, any planned upgrades, system connectivity, and who the subject matter is, both for ADT labs, PATH, RAD, PACS, transcription, EMS, medications, pharmacy, immunizations, and interface engine. And of course, this one, you're definitely going to need vendor support to help with this one, unless you have internal IT contacts that can help manage that question. You may have noticed that on several of the tabs following the System Information tab in the workbook, they do not need to be filled out just yet. This document, this workbook, is going to be interactive, so we'll be sharing it back and forth. We will be getting it initially from you once it's completely filled out. We'll be submitting that to HCI KPI Ninja. They will come back and let us know they're ready to work on your connection, or if there is something missing, they might reject it and have us work with you to make sure that it's completed. For reference, these tabs are the pre-kickoff, the ADT questionnaire, the lab questionnaire, PATH, MDM, ORU, PACS, and implementation questions. So don't worry about filling out those sections just yet. That's something we'll be working with you later. All right, what to expect next? The Contexture vendor support team will begin to reach out to you and your vendor to schedule kickoffs in Q4 2023, which we're going to be starting here in November soon, all the way up into 2024. We're going to review your workbook and start, kicking off these projects. If your workbook is incomplete, please work with your vendor to complete the specified sections before we have the kickoff call so that we have a meaningful technical discussion. We will use the contact information listed in the workbook for the outreach to you. There are various factors that determine the start date of your integration, such as your workbook status, the connection type that you have, if you're a Part 2 data center. We're currently working with HCI KPI Ninja to determine the schedules for the type of data centers that we're going to be integrating first. And I do want to make a note that for Part 2 data centers only, so if you're only a Part 2 data center and you have no other data, we will not be implementing your feed until Q4 of 2024. So it'll just give you a little bit more time to work with your vendor to support getting your workbooks filled out. We do, however, are going to encourage you to start initiating project discussions with your technical team and with your vendor, but don't start building anything yet. We don't want you to build a VPN just yet. We want to wait until we have time to work with you and with HCI KPI Ninja, because they're the ones that are going to have to build the VPN with you. But we do encourage you to go ahead and work with your vendors. I know that at times it takes a while to put in support tickets with them and get somebody, lined up to work on this. And the other thing we're going to need to let you know is that we will more than likely have to have you run what's called a bifurcated feed, which means that we're going to have to be sending your data feed to the current HDH platform, but then also to HCI's platform until such time that we go live, which is scheduled for April 2025. At that time, we'll turn off the data feed to their current platform, and then we'll turn on the data feed to the new platform, and then you'll be live in the new platform. So if for some reason your vendor is unable to do this, then please reach out to the vendor support at contexture.org team. If you are ready to start working on your workbook, or if you have questions or you want to meet with us and or your vendor, reach out to the vendor support, and we're happy to go ahead and facilitate a call with you so that we can get a lot of these technical discussions out of the way and get you implemented. An important note, if you have the vendor of either Point Click Care, Athena, Matrix Care, Credible, or NetSmart, we are currently working collaboratively with these vendors because they have what's called hub connections. This means that a lot of their connections are pretty much the same details. That said, in fact, we have somebody on the call today, David, who's worked all the point-click care connections. They've created a hub, so it's very easy to go ahead and get people implemented on it. What we did was David worked on a one master worksheet, which was submitted to HCI KPI Ninja, which included all the participants that had that data feed inbound to us through PCC. And the same thing we're doing with Athena, Matrix Care, Credible, and NetSmart. So if you have those vendors, they are going to work with us to try to do one master feed, include your information in that master feed, and send that over to us. Now, even though that they're doing that with us, that does not alleviate you just yet, right? We still want you to fill out two of the sections, which is the tab that has the contact information and your OID information, especially if you have an HL7 registered OID. Athena and ECW are ones that do support their own EHR OID, which means you cannot use that one. You'll have to apply for your own HL7 registered OID. If you are an organization that's in the HIE program, it's very important that you work with project resources and get ready for the vendor kickoff to ensure that we can meet the 2024 and 2025 deadlines. So please I think it's even more important for you because you have milestones that have to be met within a certain timeline. We want to make sure we help you get there. All right, now it's time for questions. I will stop sharing and we'll go ahead and start taking questions. Alexa, if you can go ahead and any other phone, I'm sorry, any other questions? I think we're good. We're going to make the material available to you for whoever registered today. If you have any questions, again, I encourage you to reach out to vendor support. We'll get to your questions as fast as we can. As you can imagine, we're working with all our data centers, so we're trying to move as quickly as possible, trying to respond to everybody. If you don't hear back from us, feel free to send us a second email, but we're trying to work as fast as we can. And if you do need to get a call scheduled with us so that we can walk through the workbook, we're happy to do that. All right, if there's no more questions, we'll leave you. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.